In this session, we're going to talk about the left and the right functions in SQL. And to give you a demonstration of these functions, I have created up a new variable in our paycheck table, which represents the employee code. And it consists of certain letters and numbers, and each letter has a specific meaning. So the first letter in the employee code represents the designation class for the individual. D stands for analyst, C stands for senior analyst, B stands for team lead, and A stands for manager. The next three alphabets represent the department to which the individual belongs to, and R&D means research and development, SAL means sales, ADM means administration, and FIN means finance. The last four digits simply represent the employee number of the individual in that specific department. So say you are faced up with a situation that you want to have the employee code of the individual, the employee number of the individual uh, extracted from the employee code only. So how are you going to achieve it? So we move on to the functions tab again, move on to the SQL view. So to extract the employee code, the employee number of the individual from the employee code, all we need to do is we need to extract the last four digits of the number of the employee code, and we would have the employee number in that for that employee code. Now to get that, we need to simply use the right function. The right function lets you extract specific portions of strings for a specific characters. So again, all functions work by putting in starting with brackets. So I type in the variable's name, employee code, and I want to select four alphabets from the right. So in this code, so in this employee code, you will notice that if I begin from right, if I were able to select four alphabets beginning from right, I will have the employee code. So I'm gonna use the right function for this and say employee number. And just for clarity purposes, let's have a employee code also printed out in our results. So let's try running this query. So there you go. We have the results which we wanted. So employee number, as you would see that it has a right function has correctly extracted 1802 as the extracted number over here, and 1984 for second, and so on and so forth. The true use of this function is that when we combine it with the certain other conditions that we need to apply in say in a SQL query itself. So I can combine the whole thing with a where clause. So let's say I need to have only those values returned up where the last four digits, the since it's an employee number in that department, I want only those employees which joined, which have an employee number of greater than 1980. Putting a semicolon at the end, when I would run this, you're going to see that there is just one individual which has an employee number of greater than 1984. Now this gets even more interesting if I were to change the whole situation, and if I ask you, I want you to tell me what is the designation code for the specific individual in this employee code. And to extract the designation code, if you remember from the beginning of the session, we understood that the first letter represents a designation code for the employee. So let's say we change the tables over here, and all we need to do is we need to use the left functions for the same, and we're going to type in left, then type in the variable's name. So this is a left employee code, and select the first letter only. So this is we're going to rename the variable as desig code, and we're going to keep the employee code variable also in our query results, and we're not going to use the where clause. So when we'll try running this query, you're going to see that it now gives us the designation code for each of the employee code by extracting the first digit from the employee code itself. Now this is again a very interesting feature if we were to combine it with, say, the where clause. So where left of where this condition equals to say B. Now, the two things to be noted again. If in this session I have repeatedly used the functions complete designation here in the where clause. The reasons are pretty much similar to what we have already discussed in the previous sessions. We cannot use their new names as in the where clause because SQL doesn't really execute in the hence mentioned sequence. But and the next thing we need to understand is that we need to put a B in inverted commas over here. If we don't put a B in inverted commas, it's going to show us an error. So when we are going to run this code, it's going to give us only those codes where designation code equals B. That is the team lead. So since there were just only one team lead, let's try changing the situation and change it to A. So we should be having only those variables where the designation is of a manager. And just for clarity purposes, I have added a designation in the select clause also. So when running this, you're going to notice that only those design codes where which has a beginning it with it, and you can and as we coded it correctly, all these are managers. So this brings us to an end to our part one on the left and the on the text extracting functions in SQL. Stay tuned for the next session. We're going to discuss about another function called the mid function. Thank you for watching.